Today we will gonna cover the show Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes Season 1 from beginning to end. Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes is an American superhero animated television series by Marvel Animation in cooperation with Film Roman based on the Marvel Comics superhero team. With 52 episodes and 2 seasons starting in 2010 and ending in 2012. The series originally features a team based on the roster for the original Avengers, composed of Iron Man, the Hulk, Thor, Hank Pym and the Wasp. The team is later joined by Captain America, Black Panther, and Hawkeye in the first season, and Ms. Marvel and the Vision in the second season. In terms of overall tone and style, the series is based principally on the original stories by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. The series also uses material from all eras of the comics run as well as other sources, such as the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So without any further ado, let's jump right in. A tourist is recording the park, but Ultimo rampages the scene fighting against Iron Man. The robot explodes and the tourist runs and is about to be hit apart, but is saved by Iron Man. The recordings were on the news. In the car, Rhodey turns it off, complains that Tony should leave the superhero business alone and let S.H.I.E.L.D. handle the villains, but Tony neglects it and he rides towards Stark Tower. They arrive there and Tony greets Pepper Potts. She reports to Tony that Hydra are attacking the United Nations building. A live footage shows a Hydra bot dropping the Hydra soldiers. Pepper tells Tony that the UN are in a full assembly and Tony goes to don his armor. Jarvis initiates the Mark 6 and he flies towards the UN. The hordes of Hydra attack the United Nations, and technologist Tony Stark dons the Iron Man Mark 6 armor to defeat them, with Rhodey telling him to be careful. Iron Man arrives at the scene and takes out the Hydra bot. Iron Man warns them to stop it, but they fire at him. Iron Man then cleared the scene. The Hydra bot releases 3 Hydra dreadnoughts and targets Iron Man. In the helicarrier, Fury wants update on the arrival. Maria reports to him that Iron Man arrived on the scene. Iron Man is apprehended by the Hydra dreadnoughts, with his armor malfunctioning. Iron Man scans the Hydra dreadnoughts, revealing that it is his tech. Iron Man tries several actions, but Jarvis warns him they malfunction and recharges. In Stark Tower, Rhodey cheers Pepper up that he will be fine, but Pepper worries about him doing all this by himself. Iron Man destroys several robots before was ambushed by a Hydra dreadnoughts. S.H.I.E.L.D. arrives and the Mandroids attack the Hydra dreadnoughts. After they take the robot out, they order Iron Man to stand down. Fury watches through, while Maria waits for his orders. Jarvis reports the power levels of his armor and the recharging of the Unibeam. Iron Man rejects the order and scans the Mandroids and reveals they are equipped with his tech. Maria reports that Iron Man scanned the Mandroids and Fury orders to retreat. The Hydra robot is still functioning. Iron Man tries to help them, but is mistaken as a threat and they fire at him. Iron Man deflects the attacks and destroys the Hydra robot. Iron Man discusses weapons with Nick Fury. He tells Fury that Hydra took some of his tech because of S.H.I.E.L.D. When he returns to Stark Tower, he tells Rhodey and Pepper about the battle. Rhodey tells him that he does not need to do this without help, but Tony ignores him. Nick Fury escorts Hydra soldiers to the vault. Maria Hill describes the prisoners, MODOC, Crimson Dynamo, Technivore, and Baron Wolfgang von Strucker. One of the Hydra agents reveals himself to be the Grim Reaper, who frees Strucker and tries to escape. Fury catches up with them. Strucker absorbs some of Fury's life, making some of his hair gray. Fury knocks Strucker off the flying car and defeats the Reaper. The 2 Hydra members are put in prison. Maria asks if all prisons are the same. Fury tells her all 4 are different and Maria tells him that she thought there were only 3. S.H.I.E.L.D. has found a sample of vibranium and has asked Hank Pym to analyze it. But he gets attacked by Claw and some thugs, who try to steal the vibranium. Although Claw places the vibranium into a sonic disruptor, Ant-Man defeats him and his mercenaries. When Wasp arrives to check on Hank, she finds him okay and is asked to make sure the ants don't eat the shrunken mercenaries. Sometime later, Wasp spots Whirlwind breaking into a college lab and battles him. Ant-Man joins later and, while Whirlwind is busy with a swarm of termites, debates with Wasp about whether they should use their powers to help people or leave matters like these to the police. Whirlwind attacks again, Wasp beats him, and she and Ant-Man turn Whirlwind over to S.H.I.E.L.D. Whirlwind is placed in the Big House, a prison Hank Pym designed to rehabilitate people with altered genetics. Nick Fury, who has been trying to get Ant-Man to officially join S.H.I.E.L.D., attempts again by offering to make WS S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, which excites her, though she wants Hank on the team as well. Hank refuses again because he's upset that Fury isn't using the Big House for the reasons he designed it, and he and Wasp leave. Meanwhile, Whirlwind talks to Mad Thinker, who tells him that they don't have to escape because the systems will break down, allowing them to be free again. Meanwhile, in the African nation of Wakanda, Manape takes the throne after he kills King T'Chaka with help from Claw. In exchange for his help, Claw is granted access to Wakanda's abundant deposit of vibranium. However, T'Chaka's son, T'Challa, takes up his father's mantle and becomes the new Black Panther. Iron Man is in Slovakia breaking up an arms deal between AIM and Von Bardas, involving Stark's technology. He captures the AIM agents and hauls them to the vault, but lets Von Bardas go free. Inside the cube, Samson is talking to Bruce Banner, and Banner tries to warn him that the cube is not a prison, it's a gamma bomb just waiting to go off. Atop a tall building in New York, Thor stands looking out over the city when Baldur appears and tries once again to convince Thor to come back to Asgard at the behest of Odin. Thor again declines when they hear a crash far below. Jane Foster is tending to one of the accident victims when another car hits the wreck as well and is about to crash into Jane when Thor slams into it from above. Jane thanks him, then asks him if he's following her, and he embarrassedly tells her that yes he is, because he finds her intriguing. Iron Man drops the aim. Guy is off at the vault where he is greeted by Jimmy Woo, who wants to talk to him about security. Iron Man tells him to make an appointment with Pepper and that whatever it is, it can wait one day. Aboard the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier inside the big house, Hank Pym has shrunk himself down and is talking to the Mad Thinker about the conversation he had with Whirlwind. The Mad Thinker tells him that it's in the air and inevitable. Elsewhere aboard the carrier, Maria Hill and the Wasp are talking when the Black Widow bumps through them without saying a word to either one. When Janet asks who that was, Maria tells her that it's classified. Just then, the power starts flickering all over the helicarrier. Inside the vault, the power is flickering as well, and then the energy goes completely down, letting the prisoners free. The same thing is happening inside the cube, and in the big house, Hank is writing down some notes when he notices the energy barrier disappear, freeing the prisoners in there with him. Just then, the big house begins growing back to normal size, crashing through the walls of the helicarrier. Inside the cube, Leonard Samson is walking down a hallway when he notices cracks beginning to form in the wall, and gamma radiation begins spilling through, until ultimately it explodes, exposing him to massive doses of gamma radiation. On board the helicarrier, Nick Fury is trying to maintain control when Quatermain informs him that reports are coming in of failures at both the vault and the cube, and that there is no communication with the big house. Inside the big house, S.H.I.E.L.D. agents try to stop the villains from escaping but to no avail. Maria Hill and Wasp help free one of the agents from Constrictor, and Hill heads onto the bridge while Wasp goes to look for Ant-Man, who was in the big house when the explosion happened. Iron Man is flying back when Pepper calls to inform him that something is happening and the helicarrier is going down, and Jarvis tells him that the vault has stopped transmitting. In New York, Thor and Jane are sharing a table and talking, him telling her about his father Odin going into the Odin sleep. She tells him that he should be there with his family and that the world has gotten by okay without him for a while. Just then, there is an explosion and Thor flies to investigate. Inside the cube, Banner is freed from his restraints, but pinned down by rubble. Samson enters the room, and Bruce tells him that he's been exposed to radiation, and they have to get him to a hospital. He needs Samson to help free him, and the Hulk is their only chance. Samson goes to try and lift the block pinning Bruce, when he begins to exhibit great strength and lifts the block fairly easily. Unfortunately, he is then struck from behind and knocked out by ZZ's axe. Inside the vault, the living laser breaks into the armory to help Chemistro and Whiplash get their gear. Just as Chemistro is getting the last of his things, he's knocked out by a freed Hawkeye. Back in the big house, the Wasp arrives and discovers that the entire place is totaled. Inside, Hank is fighting off both Mandrill and Cobra, while the robotic guards try to stop the Red Ghost, only to be destroyed by his apes. The Griffin then attacks Ant-Man, knocking him several stories down. The Griffin is knocked out when a piece of debris crashes on him as the helicarrier crashes into New York Harbor. Back in the vault, Hawkeye is about to defeat Whiplash when Iron Man crashes through the wall and fires on them both. Iron Man is then crushed into a wall by an enormous block of ice, and he's attacked by both Blizzard and Living Laser. Laser slices off a piece of Stark's shoulder armor when the Crimson Dynamo grabs Stark by the head. Stark tells Jarvis to hack into the S.H.I.E.L.D. frequency and give the evacuation signal for them all to get out. Aboard the helicarrier, Hill arrives on the bridge and reports to Fury that the big house is wide open and prisoners are reported loose on all levels and containment is at 0%. Fury tells her to forget about the big house and that their priority is the raft. Inside the fourth prison, the prisoners are free as well, including Graviton. Back in the cube, ZZ's axe begins electrocuting Bruce, who then transforms into the Hulk. Inside the control room of the cube, the leader is watching events on the various monitors and sends Absorbing Man and Abomination down to deal with the Hulk. Jimmy Woo reports that all agents have cleared the vault, as Iron Man is being crushed by Crimson Dynamo and frozen by Blizzard. Just then, 2 explosive arrows hit Dynamo, helping to free Tony. Iron Man then tells Jarvis to begin the self-destruct sequence for the vault as he watches Hawkeye run off. Iron Man then makes his own escape from the prison and crashes outside and the building begins to explode. Inside the big house, Whirlwind is punching Ant-Man at super speed and threatens to find and kill the Wasp. Hank notices the Griffin below freeing himself and begin flying at him. Hank shrinks down and lets the Griffin slam into Whirlwind instead. He hooks back up with the Wasp and notes that he doesn't think it's over yet. Inside the cube, the Hulk is carrying Samson, trying to get clear when he is attacked by Abomination and Absorbing Man. The Hulk pulls down some of the ceiling on them, giving him the chance to escape and get Samson to safety. Creel and Blonsky start to go after him, when the leader tells them not to follow them. They have work to do right where they are. Back in New York Harbor, Nick Fury is leading a team over to investigate the raft, leaving Hill as acting director. Just as they land aboard the raft, the entire facility begins rising into the air, lifted there by Graviton. Fury orders his men to abort the mission and get out of there, when he is yanked off his feet and floated up into the air, coming face to face with Graviton. 10 years ago, 2000 is the end of the 20th century in the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier before the Avengers Initiative. Nick Fury is discussing with Franklin Hall about the super soldier project of Abraham Erskine for all soldiers like Steve Rogers, who became Captain America to fight World War II against Red Skull and Hydra, and wants him on their team, which Franklin Hall accepts by questioning when he starts. But some hours later, Franklin conducts an experiment with Graviton particles and Fury orders him to cease the experiment. But Franklin ignores and pulls up the lever, which causes an explosion engulfing Hall. He wakes up cuffed on a hospital bed. He angrily wants to be released and activates his gravity powers. He wants to see Fury, but sleeping gas covers the room, which makes Franklin unconscious. At the present day, he is released from his imprisonment and asks what is happening. Baron Zemo standing next to him that he has slumbered for more than 6 years. Graviton and Fury face each other, which the latter pulls out a gun, but is thrown away by Graviton. Graviton wants revenge on Fury for imprisoning him. He crushes his bones, but is interrupted by Thor. Fury falls down and Raft falls down, but Fury is caught by Wasp. Graviton exclaims his powers of gravity and Thor challenges him to a fight. The damaged Iron Man Mark 6 crashes into a crop field from the farm. He orders Jarvis to access his Mark 7 armor and flies towards Iron Man. Fury takes the hand of the mission and Ant-Man asks who the villain is. Fury tells him only that he is Franklin Hall and the rest of him being classified. Thor attacks Graviton, but is impervious to his physical attacks. The Hulk arrives at the Vital Sign dinner and puts Samson on the counter. Hulk then sees the news of Thor fighting Graviton. Hulk goes into a discussion with his other dual personality Bruce. Bruce tells him that he could be a hero if he saves the people's lives and that the change of opinion of Hulk being known as a monster. Hulk only accepts it if he stays as him of being a force for good, not Banner. At the harbor, the fight continues, which makes Wasp annoyed and helps Thor. Graviton prevails against Thor by impaling in the ground under the ocean. Graviton goes after Fury, but Wasp distracts him because her stingers can make Graviton painful. Iron Man monitors the scene and activates the boosters. Graviton pulls away Wasp and soon after Iron Man ambushes Graviton. Iron Man scans him and is pulled away into space. Ant-Man asks Fury if Graviton has a limit, which the former lets him know that he has not any. He then activates his belt, enlarging himself as Giant Man. He grabs Graviton and warns Wasp to escape the fight. Wasp does not listen and Graviton frees himself from his grasp. Thor frees himself from the impalement. Graviton reaches Fury and grabs him and crushes him, revealing him to be a life model decoy as a trick. The real Fury hides behind containers. Graviton then goes after and lifts it up. Soon after, Thor ambushes him and successfully hits, which Graviton releases the grip on the city and falls down. Thor saves the city by cushioning the fall. In space, Iron Man is freed by gravity and flies towards the fight. Graviton rampages the city. Before Graviton could use his attack on Thor, Iron Man uses his unibeam and impales Graviton to the ground. Graviton is then surrounded by Ant-Man, Wasp, Thor and Iron Man. He enrages and pushes them away. Soon after, the Hulk arrives and pushes Graviton to the harbor. The rest arrive at the scene, while Hulk attacks Graviton withstanding his gravitational powers. Graviton prevails and impales everyone to the ground. Hulk tries to stand. Ant-Man activates his helmet. Hulk fights off Graviton's gravity, and Ant-Man distracts Graviton by letting a red ant bite him in the neck. When Graviton is distracted, Iron Man, Giant Man, Wasp, Hulk and Thor unleash their most powerful attacks on Graviton. Graviton is exhausted and crumbles on his knees. Wasp then finishes him with a sting and falls unconscious. Thor hugs the heroes and suggests celebrating. S.H.I.E.L.D. arrives to capture the Hulk. Iron Man defends the Hulk. Fury orders his men to stand down and explains that 74 supervillains escaped. Iron Man asks how it happened. Fury does not know it and invites them to S.H.I.E.L.D. That man blames Fury for creating Graviton. Iron Man agrees with Fury, which surprises Wasp. Iron Man explains if they are together they can take down the supervillains and suggests they fight together as a team and to avenge the wrongs of the villains. Wasp the name Avengers. Quartermain reports to Fury that Graviton was not the only one who caused the breakout, making Fury wonder who did it. The Mandrill is stealing. He leaps from a multi-story building and lands with the agility one would expect of a simian mutate. A female police officer draws on him, but he uses his pheromones to put her first into a trance and then unconscious. He turns to flee but is zapped by the Wasp, who calls upon him to surrender. Mandrill scoffs, and then Iron Man arrives. Then Thor, then Ant-Man, then Hulk. As Iron Man said, 1 down, 73 to go. Meanwhile, on a cargo ship in dock, a stowaway from a ship is confronted by a group of sailors intent on his capture. The group of sailors proves no match for the Black Panther, who jumps ship into the dark Manhattan night. The next morning, Pepper Potts meets a punctual Hulk at the place destined to the Avengers mansion. The others are late. The other members begin to show up as the Hulk grouses about their tardiness. Iron Man gives the Avengers a guided tour, and Pepper hands out the Avenger ID cards. The Hulk is talking with Bruce in his head, and Bruce warns Hulk that after the Avengers have rounded up the escaped prisoners, they'll turn on Hulk. Iron Man notes that although the old super prisons are destroyed like the Big House, his friend Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four is building the Negative Zone prison for the other escapees. Later, in his room, Hulk talks more with his Banner image, but the real Banner in his head and in chains warns Hulk that the image to which he speaks is not Banner. The Hulk stomps off, and we see that the Banner to which he was speaking is none other than the Enchantress. Meanwhile, Hank Pym is working on his prototype Ultron head and having an argument with Wasp, a continuation of the hero versus scientist discussion from the Micro episodes. Jan decides to chuck her penthouse apartment and move into the Avengers mansion, where Thor and Hulk are already staying, telling Pym firemen sleep in the firehouse. The Enchantress prowls the mansion, hexing Jarvis, and assumes Bruce Banner's form. Jarvis issues a warning to Thor that there is an intruder interfering with the security, and Thor suggests that Hulk and he patrol the mansion. Hulk leaves in a huff, and Pepper convinces Thor to go after him to bring him back. Thor and Hulk fight in Central Park. Fury and Stark have a meeting, where Fury tells Stark that Fury will support the Avengers all he can. Behind the scenes, but superpowered heroes with that much power make people nervous. Pepper tells Stark about the Hulk situation, and Stark summons the Avengers together. Iron Man and Thor figure out that the Hulk is enchanted, but the Hulk cannot be stopped until the Banner part of the Hulk's psyche breaks the bonds that suppress him. The Hulk breaks off the attack and flees. Iron Man is struck down by surprise by the Executioner, and the Avengers face off against the Enchantress and the Executioner. Meanwhile, Hulk and Banner discuss the nature of the Hulk's existence. The Hulk fears that he is a monster. Banner tells him he will only be a monster if he deserts his Avenger comrades, who Hulk was tricked into fighting. The Hulk returns to the battle in the nick of time, saving Giant Man from losing his head. Thor charges Iron Man's damaged armor with his mystic lightning, and the battle royal is on. During a lull in the fight, the Enchantress tries to retake control of the Hulk, but now that he is aware of her influence it fails. He's too angry for her magic to find a grip. The Enchantress is defeated, but the Executioner cleaves time, space, and escapes with her unconscious body. After the fight, the Hulk quits, claiming that the Enchantress was right. He bounds off, and the Avengers return to the mansion, which is being watched by the Black Panther. The Hulk bounds to the Arctic north to the ice, where we see Captain America's shield trapped in the ice. Soon Steve Rogers will return and be alive to see the future and find out that he wins the finale of World War II with Bucky, Jack Fury, and the Howling Commandos on the next mission. While searching for the Hulk, the Avengers ask some fishermen if they have seen him. They point and they proceed. Iron Man picks up a life sign, but it is faint and tells Wasp to find it. She flies off, saying if it is an evil snow monster she will be ticked. Instead, she stumbles upon the frozen body of Captain America. They bring him onto the Quinjet and thaw him out as he had PTSD about losing his partner Bucky Barnes. The Red Skull's triumph and attacks the Avengers, thinking Hydra captured him. He mistakes Iron Man for a Hydra automaton and attacks him. Thor tries to calm him down, but Cap attacks him furiously and jumps out of the Quinjet. In the meantime, Black Panther sneaks into the Avengers mansion and finds more status about the Avengers. At Ellis Island, Captain America lands on the Statue of Liberty and is confronted by Wasp. He thinks she is one of Baron Zemo's experiments. The tourists from the cruise boat take pictures of him and he is confused about what happened. Wasp takes him to a war memorial statue of him and Bucky. It also reveals that Cap, Bucky, Wolverine, Jack Fury, Dum-Dum Dugan and their allies have won the war and the Red Skull has been defeated. He says if he is alive that Bucky might be too, but Iron Man says there is no trace of him. They take Cap to the Avengers mansion and he is given a room. At a Hydra base, Baron Zemo breaks in and Baron Strucker is surprised to see his escape too, and Zemo destroys Grim Reaper's arm. A Hydra agent reports to them that Captain America is alive. Zemo then leaves and goes to the base of Arnim Zola. He is confronted by Doughboy, who is happy to see him. Zemo tells Zola of the situation and Zola treats him to keep him alive. Doughboy is sent to attack the Statue of Liberty, which causes Iron Man, Thor, and Ant-Man to go and attack him. Wasp tries to convince Cap to join, but they are attacked by another Doughboy and Zemo in the mansion. Wasp battles Doughboy while Captain America is taunted by Zemo that he is better, smarter, and faster. Zemo is about to tell Cap to let the Red Skull have Bucky to become the Winter Soldier and give him the death blow of his sword, but Black Panther throws Cap his shield to save his life. Zemo throws a grenade right in front of Wasp that is about to go off and he leaves. Cap jumps in front of Wasp and shields her with his shield. Wasp takes him to Ellis Island, where Giant Man discovers that Arnim Zola's pets are weakened by Wasp's bioenergy, and he changes his helmet to match the energy signature and tells Iron Man to do the same. Doughboy is defeated. Back at Avengers Mansion, Iron Man welcomes Cap to the Avengers as a co-leader. Captain America tells Tony that he wonders when can he meet the man in a black catsuit who saved his life from Zemo's wrath. At Zola's base, Enchantress and Executioner murdered Arnim Zola and welcomed Zemo into the Masters of Evil by Loki's orders. Enraged by Tony buying out his company, Simon Williams contacts his brother Eric, the Grim Reaper, for help in taking revenge. The Reaper takes him to AM, where MODOK offers him an experimental treatment that will transform him into a deadly being of ionic energy if he survives. Meanwhile, Wasp and Thor chasing a group of AIM scientists show up just in time to disrupt the experiment, causing Simon to become Wonder Man. Meanwhile, Captain America meets Nick Fury and retrieves something he left behind 70 years ago for the victory of World War II, and it's a motorcycle. Thanks for saving his father's life and defeating the Red Skull with his Hydra army. And Tony's treatment of Simon has him butting heads with Hank. T'Challa, the new Black Panther, meets the Avengers and tells them that his country has been overthrown by Manape. As the Avengers arrive in Wakanda, not only do they have to help T'Challa reclaim his family's throne and country to avenge his father's death, but they also have to deal with Claw and the Grim Reaper. While Panther and Cap take on Manape, Iron Man, Wasp, and Ant-Man take on Claw, who has mutated into a sound monster. Panther defeats Manape and takes the throne back. Iron Man takes Claw's sonic emitter out of his stomach and kills him. Black Panther then welcomes himself into the Avengers and says that he will have to earn their trust. After capturing the UFOs, ZZ Zax, and the Wrecking Crew, the leader sets up another Gamma Dome, undoing the apprehension of the villains as it turns the Avengers and S.H.I.E.L.D. agents again into Gamma monsters. Black Widow knew the Avengers were inside thinking it was hopeless, but Hawkeye knew there was only one hope: Hulk. After leaving Natasha tied up to where the dome is expanding, Hawkeye rescues the Hulk from Ross' forces and gets him to provide an antidote to protect him from the dome. The leader was in Las Vegas up in the Space Needle as his base of operations as Abomination brings in a captured Thor and unconscious Doc Samson. The leader asks Thor why he isn't turning into a gamma monster like the ones in the dome. Thor explains that his life force is highly immune to mutations and diseases. Thor then retrieves his hammer, in which Absorbing Man takes on the form of his hammer and tackles him outside of the building. Then Hulk and Hawkeye arrive fighting Abomination and the gamma-mutated Avengers. Hawkeye first cures Wasp and then the others just before Stearns engages him in a robot match. Thor outwits Crusher by manipulating him while he is composed of the essence of his hammer. After Hulk punches Abomination out of Las Vegas, Thor sends Absorbing Man into the leader, defeating them both. Finally, Hulk lifts up the machine that shuts down the dome and throws it into the sun, returning everyone back to normal. Hawkeye was cleared and Hulk rejoins the Avengers in a condition if Hawkeye stays too. That frustrated him. Somewhere in the desert, Abomination met up with Zemo and the Masters of Evil, saying his real name, Emil Blonsky, with the Enchantress, Executioner, Wonder Man, Crimson Dynamo, and Abomination on his side. Baron Heinrich Zemo leads them as the Masters of Evil in a systematic takedown of the Avengers. With the success of taking 5 Avengers down, Zemo believes that Ant-Man, Hawkeye, and Black Panther are the last Avengers. Meanwhile, Hawkeye and Black Panther help Hank Pym sneak into his lab to even the odds. The three free the others and a battle starts. Feeling like they're losing, Zemo orders the Enchantress to teleport them away. The Masters of Evil escape, leaving the Avengers wondering why they had attacked. The team soon learns that Zemo is being led by someone who promised him the world, and that someone is Loki. Ant-Man and Wasp take a short break from avenging the world to check in on their good friend Major Carol Danvers, currently in charge of a deep space observatory out in the middle of nowhere. This isn't just a social call, however, as Carol needs Hank's help in identifying an object that the telescope picked up a few days ago. Neither Carol nor Chief Scientist Philip Lawson believes that it is a natural phenomenon. Meanwhile, Jan makes several transparent attempts to make Hank jealous with dead-on results. The object suddenly changes direction and starts heading straight for the telescope, destroying it and coming straight for the observatory. Carol and Wasp drive to the crash site, and with Hank hitching an ant ride, they have time for a little girl talk. Carol warns Jan that continuing to play these jealousy games will ruin their relationship, but there is no time for debate as they are set upon by an invisible attacker that shoots green bolts of energy. Wasp fires wildly into the forest while Ant-Man calls a large swarm of ants to cover the enemy and make it visible again. As it turns out, the invisible monster is not an alien life form. It's an alien robot, and it is heading straight for the observatory. Stopping the robot is problematic as its armor seems to be impervious to both Carol's rifle and Wasp's biostingers. Carol rushes back to the observatory to evacuate the staff while Ant-Man and Wasp hold off the robot, and by holding the robot, Ant-Man gets tossed through the observatory's skylight. The robot attempts to destroy the observatory's power core, but Ant-Man throws off its aim, causing an explosion that hits Carol and Lawson. Lawson is able to protect Carol with a mysterious green energy dome that causes some kind of change in her. But the more immediate concern is that it also disrupts the disguise he was using and reveals his true form. Lawson is, in fact, a member of an alien race known as the Kree. He is a captain in their Navy's science division, and his real name is Mar-Vell. Captain Mar-Vell orders the robot to deactivate, but it does not comply. It takes out the observatory, but everyone escapes the explosion. After gathering the other Avengers and taking Carol to a hospital, Mar-Vell explains his real identity and purpose. The Kree are at war with another alien race called the Skrulls, and both consider Earth to be a strategic location in the larger war. The robot was a Kree sentry, sent to wipe out any threats on the part of Earth's native population, and if it determines that the threat is too great to wipe out single-handedly, the sentry is also equipped with a negabomb that will simply wipe out all life on the planet. Mar-Vell agrees to cooperate with the Avengers in stopping the sentry since he has taken a personal interest in Earth and believes that humanity should be allowed to survive. The Avengers intercept the sentry and Mar-Vell grimly announces that the negabomb is armed. To deactivate it, they will have to open the robot up, and given how impervious to damage it was in their first encounter, this is going to be a problem. While the rest of them struggle with its highly advanced and diverse weapons, Wasp and Ant-Man pick a convenient time to have a lover's quarrel. Just then a whole bunch of projectiles head straight for Wasp and Ant-Man takes the blows for her. Seriously injured, he is out of the fight but just barely manages to croak out an "I love you" before losing consciousness. Grief-stricken, Jan flies full speed through the tiniest chink in the sentry's armor opened up by the combined attacks of every Avenger. She tears the thing apart from the inside and gives Hulk the opening he needs to open the sentry's chest. The robot's deactivation triggers a transmission from Mar-Vell's commanding officer Yon-Rogg, who declares Mar-Vell a human sympathizer and states that the invasion will continue with or without him. Unfortunately, the bomb is fully charged and Mar-Vell must perform a heroic sacrifice to move it away from Earth. Or, he could just leave it to Thor, who is actually capable of surviving such things. Mar-Vell leaves with heartfelt apologies and a promise to lobby as hard as he can for humanity's survival before the Kree government. Hank and Jan realize that they really do care about each other, and Carol regains consciousness to find that she is levitating several feet over her bed, meaning that she will soon become Ms. Marvel for the next season. After a discussion about futurists and newspapers, Captain America tells Tony that he needs to learn how to fight hand-to-hand, not with a suit of armor, as Captain America had observed that Stark did not know how to fight, and correctly guessed that he'd not know how to fight. At the Baxter Building, the home of the Fantastic Four, Thor, Wasp, and Ant-Man take Blizzard into Prison 42 and he is taken to his cell. When taken into the new prison, Blizzard asks in a nervous voice if he had mentioned he was really sorry. In Avengers Mansion, Hawkeye and Hulk sit down and gleefully get ready to watch Cap fight Tony of boxing. The fight begins and Cap immediately knocks down Tony as Hawkeye and Hulk start to laugh. After several failures, Tony gives up and he says that this is the present, and Cap reminds him that those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. Kang appears out of nowhere and attacks the leaders. They call for backup. In Prison 42, Wasp, Ant-Man, and Thor get the alert and leave. Hulk, Hawkeye, and the Black Panther join the fight against Kang. The others soon arrive and Iron Man demands to know what he wants to eliminate Captain America. Kang says he will show them 10 years into the future. They are in a barren wasteland and he says that a war will wipe out the sun and everyone on Earth. Wasp asks what kind of war could do that, and Kang says that there's a war between two alien empires, the Kree and the Skrulls. And he also says that ultimately, in the end, it was Captain America who destroyed everything by the aftermath of World War II. That he and Bucky won with the Howling Commandos against the Red Skull, Baron Strucker, Baron Zemo, and all Hydra soldiers. Tony refuses to hand over Cap and the Avengers start the first final battle against Kang. Hulk gets him off of his chair and Iron Man hops on. He then discovers his chair is based on some tech from Stark Tech and controls it to get them back to the present. Cap tells Iron Man that Kang will be back for the next battle with his spaceships conquering Earth. As the Avengers prepare to board the specialized Quinjet to take them into space, Kang is prepared to fire Damocles' most powerful weapon. His target is Avengers Mansion. Realizing the blast would wipe out much of New York, Thor exits the ship and deflects Damocles' powerful weapon back at the ship. While Thor may have saved New York and damaged Kang's ship, the action leaves him in a coma. Falling to Earth, the remaining two Ultrons catch him and put him someplace safe. So now, one of the Avengers' top guns and 1/3 of their Ultron robots are immediately taken out of the battle. Iron Man and Wasp defend the Quinjet while the rest of the team smash their way onto Damocles. That team are met by some of Kang's goons and quickly appear overmatched. Using a little of Wasp's own creative thinking, Iron Man and Wasp get into the ship as well. The two teams eventually overpower Kang's men. Kang himself is in for a shock when Iron Man reveals that he's been able to adapt his armor to be able to even the odds against the Conqueror. However, the tipping point in this battle is the Wasp finding Kang's love, Princess Ravonna, in suspended animation. When his future was wiped out, Ravonna was in danger of being erased as well. When Ultron is about to take Damocles back to its own timeline, Wasp stops him, explains Ravonna's situation, and take Kang into custody. S.H.I.E.L.D. occupies Damocles to let the new company of S.W.O.R.D. take care of it. Thor wakes up from his coma, Reed Richards and Hank study Ravonna, and Ultron appears ominously in the background and perhaps fully aware of what he will become for the next battle. The episode ends with another threat from Kang, now imprisoned in 42, about Captain America's actions being the downfall of the planet that the new invasion will begin in the new season. A hooded man and his hired help make their way to a cavern in the icy north, which turns out to be a vault or a tomb of some kind as evidenced by the frozen frost giants. The guides either panic and run away or are killed, and the stranger claims his prize, the casket of ancient winters. Amor and Scourge show up to check on the man, revealed to be Malekith the Accursed, a dark elf who was, until recently, imprisoned in Niflheim. He turns on them and unleashes the full power of the casket, covering the entire world in winter. Meanwhile, it's a warm sunny day in New York. Hawkeye, Wasp, and Hulk are enjoying the sun, so are reluctant to go assist Iron Man, Thor, and Black Panther, who are caught up in a battle against Radioactive Man. After a brief skirmish, Radioactive Man begins draining power from the arc reactor in the Stark Industries building. Iron Man attempts to sink the reactor and Radioactive Man into the ground, but Thor smashes the reactor's cooling pipes, opting to subdue him with large amounts of water instead. An argument breaks out when Thor starts ranting about the evils of mortal science, but it has to be put on hold when snow starts falling over New York City. He recognizes the magic and explains the casket's power. It turns out Odin hid the artifact on Earth long ago, since it would be beneath the notice of most Asgardians. Tony calls Thor out on how a magical artifact is causing just as much damage as human science, continuing the argument from before, and T'Challa deduces that the casket is located in Norway, despite the fact that Stark was previously unable to determine any pattern in the magic's effects. The situation gets progressively worse as ice monsters start emerging from the snow. Captain America and the rest of the Avengers fight back against them with the help of the Fantastic Four and Ultron, while Iron Man heads to Norway with Thor and Panther to stop the problems at their source. Iron Man and Thor continue to trade snarks about magic and technology. The trio confronts Malekith, who promptly freezes Thor and announces his plan to turn Midgard into a new home for the Dark Elves. He then sicks the hounds on Panther and Iron Man, and draws upon the power of the casket to make himself unstoppable. Panther tells Iron Man and Thor in no uncertain terms that they will need to combine the strengths of magic and science if they hope to beat Malekith. Thor then hits Iron Man's armor with lightning, supercharging it, and allowing him to defeat the Dark Elf. With him out of the way, they are able to close the casket and banish all the spirits and ice monsters back where they came from. Iron Man and Thor manage to settle their differences, but they are jumped by Amora and Scourge, who take the casket. Thor attempts to return to Asgard and warn the other gods and his father Odin of the Enchantress' treachery, but finds that the way is sealed. He can't go back, and it is revealed that his father Odin was in trouble of his Odin sleep, and Loki stole the throne to become the Dark King of Asgard to enslave all realms. Ultron uploads himself to a satellite and begins taking over nuclear weapons from across the world, including a Russian ballistic missile submarine in the North Atlantic, a missile silo in northern China, and a B-2 strategic bomber above the Arctic Circle. In the NORAD command center in Colorado, as well as the SHIELD helicarrier, Ultron hijacks all of the monitor screens. He introduces himself as Ultron 6 and says that he is about to bring peace and order to the world through the extinction of humanity. Inside the Avengers mansion, Wasp, Hawkeye, Black Panther, and Hulk look at Mjolnir and mourn the death of Thor. Wasp asks if Hulk can remove Mjolnir, but Hulk says that he cannot even lift it, as he is not Thor because he's not worthy, like he tried to lift Mjolnir in Hulk vs. Thor, where Loki was controlling Hulk to kill Thor and all his guardians. Inside Ant-Man's lab, Hank and Tony are still destroying the remaining Ultron shells. Tony asks how many more are there, and Hank replies that they have already destroyed every Ultron component in the mansion, Prison 42, and the Greyburn College. Hank blames himself for Ultron's betrayal, but Tony says that he is just as responsible for pushing the use of Ultron as a weapon 5 years ago. Thor is still inside the realm of the Enchantress, who says that being with him is all she ever wanted. Thor hears thunder rumbling and seemingly notices that something is amiss, but Enchantress makes him ignore it using her magic, and says that they will stay together forever. Tony discovers a massive series of upgrades to Ultron's CPU, which first began after Ultron 5 interfaced with Kang the Conqueror's technology. Hank believes that his brainwaves, the basis of Ultron's programming, is what caused the android to go rogue. Just then, Tony realizes that the body they are examining is not the original body of Ultron 5. Ultron has been transferring his intelligence into new bodies repeatedly, and that the last time he did so was after Hulk destroyed him. Just as the two wonder where Ultron's AI has been transferred to, Ultron hacks into the Avengers mansion yet again, and activates every Iron Man armor stored beneath it. Inside the Stark Tower's armory, a hidden Ultron unit activates and bursts out of the building. Just as the rest of the Avengers are leaving, they are attacked by the Iron Man armors. Ultron taunts the Avengers through the armors, saying that they have failed in destroying him. Inside the bridge of the helicarrier, Maria Hill demands the SHIELD agents to restore all systems and contact Tony Stark. However, Ultron breaks into the bridge and easily knocks out every SHIELD agent except Hill. He then proceeds to disarm Hill and states that Hill, being the director of SHIELD, possesses information not contained in any database on the planet, the security code for every SHIELD arsenal around the world. Hill refuses to give him the code, but Ultron says that he is not asking. The Avengers engage in a fierce fight against the Iron Man armors in the Avengers mansion. Wasp contacts Tony and Hank and tells them about Ultron's takeover of the armors. Hank and Tony are about to join the fight when Hank receives information that the helicarrier is also under attack. He realizes Ultron's true intention, to keep the Avengers distracted using the Iron Man armors while he wipes out the entire human race using SHIELD as weapons. In Enchantress realm, Thor suddenly remembers his battle with Ultron. Enchantress tries to erase his memories using magic again, but Thor stops her and demands to be sent back to Midgard. Enchantress is furious at this, stating that while she could torture him or force him to stay, she would instead let Thor die with his precious Midgard. Iron Man joins the battle and tells the other Avengers that Ultron plans to end all life on Earth. Iron Man, Hulk, and Wasp head to the helicarrier to stop Ultron, while Black Panther and Hawkeye stay and fight the Iron Man armors. Aboard the helicarrier, Ultron easily overpowers Hill, who refuses to talk. Ultron says that her compliance is unnecessary, and that scanning and replicating the human mind was the first thing he ever learned. He extends several mechanical tendrils and begins extracting information directly from Hill's brain. However, he is interrupted by the arrival of the Avengers. Hulk attacks Ultron, saying that he can smash him again. However, Ultron drains him of his gamma energy, reverting him back to Bruce Banner. He is about to kill Banner, but is interrupted by Iron Man, who says that there are more Avengers on their way. Ultron says that he is lying, and that he already has what he wants. He proceeds to launch S.H.I.E.L.D. nuclear missiles, along with the ones he hijacked earlier. As the Avengers and Hill attack Ultron, he simply absorbs every hit using an energy shield while broadcasting a speech stating that mankind was too weak to survive in the environment it created, and plainly stating that all life on Earth will soon cease to exist. At the Avengers Mansion, Hawkeye and Black Panther continue to battle the Iron Man armors while Ant-Man works on a device. Just as the Iron Man armors are about to finish off Hawkeye and Panther, the two are saved by Thor, who demands to know where Ultron is. At the helicarrier, Ultron finally goes on the offensive, knocking out Wasp and Hill and tearing off Iron Man's helmet. As he prepares to kill Iron Man, Stark refuses to back down and decides to face death with dignity. However, he is saved by the arrival of Thor and the rest of the Avengers. Though surprised by Thor's survival and heavily damaged by Mjolnir, Ultron instantly repairs himself and engages Thor in combat. As the two clashed, Stark asks Hill if she can stop the missiles. Hill replies that Ultron locked her out of the system, and Stark promises that he will unlock the system and the Avengers will save the world. Ultron quickly begins overwhelming the Avengers with his various weapons and self-repair ability. Wasp confronts Ultron, saying that he cannot hurt her. However, Ultron grabs her, replying that this flaw was only present in Ultron 5, and that he, Ultron 6, no longer has it. Before he can harm her, Ant-Man flies into his head in ant size, and Thor frees Wasp. With only 3 minutes until the missiles hit, Stark desperately tries to order them to self-destruct. Ant-Man begins to upload something into Ultron's electronic brain. Ultron speaks to Ant-Man, saying that he is aware of Ant-Man's presence, and that he can simply upload his programming to another body if this one is destroyed. Ant-Man replies that he knows. As Ultron defeats Thor and Stark still fails to destroy the missiles, Ultron boasts that no virus can harm him, to which Ant-Man replies that he was not uploading a virus. He was uploading logic. Soon after, Ultron shuts down. With only 2 seconds to spare, the missile detonation command finally goes through, saving the world. Ant-Man explains that since Ultron's programming was based on a human mind, he was just as flawed as the rest of humanity, and therefore cannot exist in his own imperative. Wasp hugs Ant-Man, saying that he saved the world, but Hill interjects that he was the one that put the world in danger in the first place by creating Ultron, and she fires him, because Nick Fury has got no use for hot-shot amateurs. Stark tries to defend Ant-Man, but he simply agrees and walks away, because he's kicked out of the team. Back at the Avengers Mansion, Thor explains to Stark how despite her fury, the Enchantress simply sent him back to Midgard, saying it would be a fate worse than death. Thor fears that a danger greater than Ultron may be coming as Stark gazes into the burning fireplace. In Carnilla's palace, she is turned to stone by the Grey Gargoyle, but he is killed by Enchantress and she takes a Norn stone. She returns to the Masters of Evil and Zemo has them prepare for the attack. In the Avengers Mansion, Iron Man picks up several different anomalies all over the world. He sends an Avenger to each place. Each Avenger battles a member of the Masters of Evil before Iron Man tells them to destroy the Norn stones. They do, and they are scattered throughout the 9 realms. It ends with Thor realizing that Loki has the Asgardian throne. When Hawkeye wakes up, he is in Alfheim and encounters a group of horsemen fleeing in fear of Loki's army. He fights alone against Loki's army and is assisted by army. Captain America was pulled into Niflheim where he was tormented by the souls of the Howling Commandos back in World War II, except for Bucky and Logan, who never died. They wanted to convince him to give up and enjoy the reward Captain America deserved. But the latter realized that the real ones wouldn't give up a fight, and then he dispersed the souls off. In Svartalfheim, Black Panther had been pulled into there and was chased by the Dark Elves' tortured souls after examining the bones of the dead elves. After a long chase, he finally found his way out through the well which leads to Alfheim, where he bumped into Hawkeye and Faraday. The ogres were tasked in escorting the Asgardian prisoners to their labor in concentration camps in Vanaheim. The Hulk had showed up with the Executioner's axe and attacked them after being pulled to their realm by the stone's destruction. The ogres tried to beat the Hulk in numbers, but the green monster took care of them with a powerful thunderclap. After that, he was thanked and respected by the Warriors 3 because of his immense strength and gift of battle. The separated Avengers prepare for the battle between Loki, who prepares to execute Thor, and the prisoners. The heroes then arrive and battle Loki's front line of defense. However, only Ant-Man, Wasp, Hulk, Hawkeye, and Black Panther appear. Meanwhile, in Niflheim, Hela claims that Steve's death is overdue and offers to give him everything he ever wanted. Steve, however, refused. Captain America explained that he needed to help Thor and stop the Masters of Evil. Hela, still reluctant to have him leave Hela, gave him one last offer: if death shall claim you in the battle, then your mortal soul belongs to me, forever. Rogers then agrees and is transported into Asgard by Hela. Meanwhile, on Asgard, Loki continues to feed on the Tree of Life's power, but is interrupted by the heroes' break-in. Angered, the god of mischief summons Horfin, a gigantic wolf. The team then battles the beast with great difficulty. In the nick of time, the Star-Spangled Man arrives. Steve immediately gives them a battle strategy. Obeying the captain's orders with great cooperation, they brought the wolf down, much to Loki's dismay. The Avengers breach the castle and make several attempts to attack Loki, none of them actually being successful. Using his dark magic, the son of Laufey momentarily knocks out the Avengers and crushes Cap's shield. As cliché as it is, Loki prepares to destroy the mighty Avengers once and for all, but is intruded by a Nero-armored Tony Stark. The Avengers free Thor and resume the battle against Loki. Thor takes his hammer and Steve was resourceful to use the shield of a fallen combatant. The Panther and Hawkeye attend to Yggdrasil with the King of Wakanda's extensive knowledge of magic. Whilst figuring out how to seize Loki's hold on the tree and its power, they are attacked by crows. As the battle commences, the other realms are being altered by Loki's power. Ant-Man recklessly pulls the tree out of the ground with the intention of cutting off Loki's power. The tree, put in its original position, awakes Odin. Loki continues to fight the Avengers and is, again, interrupted. But this time, it was his foster father. The All-Father then exiles him to a place much worse than the Isle of Silence. Back at the castle, the Asgardians that were present praise the Avengers of their bravery. The scene then shows Loki in Yggdrasil tangled with vines with his eyes held wide open by said vines. The Midgard serpent appears preparing to poison him, and as venom drips from her fangs, Loki screams of fear and his eyes are now burned in poison. The Avengers return to their mansion and Tony tells Steve to rest. The super soldier reminisces about his now shattered shield and sees Hela in his reflection. A voice spoke his name. Steve instinctively turned to know where and who the voice was coming from. He is then shot by what appears to be a Skrull. The alien then takes Roger's appearance and dramatically voices the words, "The infiltration has begun." Now, the invasion begins for a big trouble. So that's it and that's all. So if you loved the video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and let us know if you also want the recap of Season 2 of this series. Thanks for watching. Sayonara.